Hello everyone, I'm Mike Kenichi and welcome to Hometown Heroes. Tonight is part 2 of our segment about the Ansonia basketball team, the championship team from 1995, and the people responsible for making that championship happen. And we have 3 of them tonight. Ed Strumello, who coached Ansonia from 1989 to 1994. Lenny Svelnys, who played for Ansonia in 1991 to 1995. And Coach Tom McQueeny, who coached Ansonia from 1964 to 1989 and then returned to Ansonia in 1994. And gentlemen, it's great to have you again. The last show was so much fun. We could have been talking all day if we wanted to. But let's get right into this championship team. And we got to start with Coach Strumello. Ed, like I said, you came in 1989 after 8 years as the girls coach. Your first year, like you said, was a difficult one. But I think the turnaround really happened in the 91-92 season. You guys were 7-12, and you needed to make the tournament, and you had to play Derby of all teams to get in that tournament. Now, Derby did not have a good year, but if you remember good, Derby wanted to spoil Ansonia's season. They wanted to knock them out of the tournament, and the first half was a very close game. I mean, they were giving you guys a lot of trouble. But I think when you guys were able to pull that game away, even though I believe you guys were beat in the first round of that year, that really started, the cycle of what was going to happen down the road. What would you say about that team?
Oh, the team itself?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a team that was the turnaround season because because you can preach that, we're getting better and you're getting better, but until you reach a tournament, that cements it in the kids' mind, the players' minds, that we are successful, we can do stuff. Because even in the tournament game that we lost, that was a tough one because I think that was North Branford at North Branford, if I remember right, and that was a tough game, and obviously we lost, but that team started, and then next year obviously we had people back. Right. And then we're getting more players.
And I believe that 92-93 team, didn't you guys win about 11 or 12 games that year, if I remember? That was a real good Ansonia team. Yeah.
It might have been more like 13. But anyway, that team contended for the league title. But we had problem with Crosby. I think we didn't match well with Crosby.
And that would be your sophomore year,
Yeah,
correct?
that was my sophomore year. And that was... That was, I was really killing it in the JVs, and Steve and I had talked about when we got together for the 20th reunion. We had talked about how you don't really see guys today fighting for those jerseys. There's a couple jerseys for the JV guys to get onto the varsity team, and you really had to scrap to get those things, and there was nothing given. I mean, at any given time, it's not just because I had a decent game. If I stunk it up on the court, there's a chance I wasn't going to get one of those jackets to get on, to get on a thing. And then you got to hope and pray that you're going to get that. You're just kind of salivating and just kind of waiting to get in, so that was the sophomore season, and we almost made it to the semifinals. We got beat by E.O. Smith, and then the 92-93 season happened, and
because E.O. Smith. The last 2 years, my last 2 years, I lost to E.O. Smith. Once up there.
Yeah, that's and I played in that, and I got some. And it's funny because in the beginning of the season, there wasn't a lot of minutes, but as I got stronger and better towards the end of the year, I was starting to rack in some minutes. And I remember reading my grandmother used to say the articles and stuff like that, and I remember up at Crosby my sophomore year. I think it was at the end of the game. We lost the game, but there was a little blurb in there about me blocking 4 shots in like 2 minutes.
Right.
And so
and
it's
as
just
a sophomore, I mean,
and
don't
get me wrong. I mean, there's guys that could come into a team that, like Jody. Jody was so mature for his age, and I mean, what a blessing that was to get him from St. Joe's.
Now, had you seen some playing time on the varsity level that year, or were you still mainly like
my sophomore year?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of like. You were scrapping to get minutes. I wasn't a starter. I would come in key situations. I mean, Carl, who Jinkevich, who moved up from the freshman, took over the JV team, which was sweet for me because it's it's my coach there, and now he came up with us for the ride. I'd see him, he'd nudge, Coach Strumello on the things like you got to get Lenny, and he's gonna be able to block a shot, or he's gonna get a rebound, or whatever. So,
Coach, when you saw Lenny, I mean, you probably saw him his freshman year a little bit, but he comes on your team his sophomore year. Did you have plans for him down the road? Did you see that he could be a big part of your team?
Yeah.
What was missing? What did he need to improve?
Well, strength was a big thing, but I think also it had to be the belief in himself.
Right.
Because he had size and ability. I mean, plus he was lefty. Right. As a coach, I loved lefties.
Yeah.
Because most players, when they get in their defensive stance, go on the wrong side for lefty right away.
Right.
So it's great. So and it's amazing. Experienced players sometimes, even in the middle of it, forget that the guy is the left-hander stuff there. And one of the breakout games that Lenny was talking about, it will be the junior
season.
Yeah. That dunk he was talking about, that was in part of the regular offense. That wasn't a breakaway dunk.
Right.
We just did a screen in our thing, and he came over the left side and in there, and boom! Now, when you do that in Wilby at Wilby, their fans are cheering. They're slapping five on the side. So, what a motivator for the team to see that stuff there. And that's that playing big mentality. That's where it started. I mean, Steve Coughlin. Now you look at Steve Coughlin, big, burly, tight end.
Right.
He jammed in. He would go and jam in games, really defeat the other team, and Jody would jam. But you know what? We talked about a lot of players, but we forget one of our key players in that year was Ray Bell.
Yeah.
Who was a great defensive. Defensive player. We could count him in big things. It reminds me a little bit of Artie for the next year. But those were good players.
Well, a lot of times people forget a kid by the name of Ari Crooks.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Ari Crooks went down to Albertus, and he had this. He set the all-time scoring record in Albertus.
Crooks, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and those guys. So go. Jumping into the senior year. I mean, we had our starting five. We were the biggest team in the state. But our practices and some of the scrimmages that we would run. I mean, I got Pat Lynch and Ari Crook that are busting my chops, elbows and making us stronger. And to have that second squad come, I mean, Terrence Washington was a freshman, and he had a couple big dunks that my senior season, and just having Luke Richmond shooting threes. I mean, extending, our defenses were trying to play those guys. I mean, he was money from behind the line.
That's the thing I wanted to ask both of you guys. You talk about the height on that team. I mean, you guys coached so many years. Did you ever see a group of boys with the size that you guys had? I mean, you talked about Coughlin, Froelich, Richmond's very tall.
Close.
I mean, that's one of the big problems that Derby has always had in basketball, no height. And Ansonia's had that problem for a long time, too.
We had that
and
problem.
As a coach, that's like your dream there. It's just because all
heaven.
you got to do is just, basically do the drills, the X's and O's, and you don't, you got height there. You don't have to worry about being outmanned. I mean, that had to be a great time in your lives coaching.
I didn't see what these guys saw previously, so here I am, I'm a young kid. I thought that was normal.
Yeah. You're right.
I was like,
is there a certain team that you could even compare that maybe had the size that team had?
No,
those teams.
Not close even.
No.
I mean, Stephen Coughlin was 6'5", and he was a guard.
Yeah, right.
He played guard. And we had guys coming off the bench. And one of the toughest kids on the team, defensively and rebounding and all of that, was Jimmy Froelich.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a tough kid.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he
did it quietly. He was a lefty too.
Right.
Yeah, the semifinal games, he was a big key in that semifinal win because everybody else was not playing as well, and Froelich stepped up in the second half that game. I remember.
Yeah, big time.
And then I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
You put in Patrick Lynch.
Yep.
He had a great tournament for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always felt like Pat was very underrated because Pat in big games always came up big. I mean, he was very good in the big game.
I don't know how tall he is. He got to be 6'5".
He's bigger than me.
Yeah.
But back then he was 6'4" or 6'5" as a junior.
I thought he was even bigger, don't you think?
He was probably growing during the season.
Yeah.
I think he started off at 6'4" and finished at maybe 6'6" or something like that. But
so it's like you said, though. I mean, you're 6'9", right? Or 6'8".
So it was 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah,
I mean, you're far in between.
And nothing's guaranteed for you because these guys are so tall. These guys are
They're talented.
So I mean, I think you guys made each other work hard because you knew that there was no guarantee you were going to be on the court.
Yeah,
so
no,
I mean,
there wasn't.
I think that's a big part in why this team won too, because they weren't just playing to win; they were playing to stay on the court too, which is
absolutely.
is a big factor.
One of the things that I remember doing that junior year, and we ran the flex offense because teams were going to play us man to man because they were afraid of a zone because we had some people. We used to not scrimmage first and second team. What I would do, I would say, okay, Lenny and Steve pick, and then they would pick. And then you would go 5-on-5. So, and everybody, because of flex offense position, everybody has to know every position in. You have to know every stop. But because it wasn't the first team against the second team, was 5 guys against 5 guys, all in different positions. Yeah. Then when you added games, it made you much better because it was like you had to win to stay on.
Yeah.
Like when you go to college, you got to win to stay on the game.
Yeah.
That's what these guys. And as a coach, that was great because you could sit here and you didn't have to worry about saying to the JVs, "Come on, play harder," or do something like that.
It definitely.
And you don't get much out if you play JVs versus varsity. You don't get much out of that.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Coach, you take over the girls program in the '92 season. Did you just want to get back on the court? Was that a big factor in you taking the job? You kind of missed the game, and
yes, and plus the amount of the caliber of coaches they had to choose from, I didn't think was right. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just thought some guy was selling cars and another guy was doing stuff. And here I was a teacher out of it, and I always loved to teach, and that's what it was. But we weren't very talented.
Right.
But they played decently hard, though.
Did you enjoy, though, going to practice every day, being back in it? I mean, for
Yes,
Ed,
I did.
Ed had left to coach the boys. Ed kind of had mentioned that, it was a tough decision because he built that team. But, he was able to kind of transition pretty good. Was it difficult, though, for you? You'd coached boys for 25 years, probably even more than that if you count your years as an assistant. And now you're coaching girls. Was it difficult? Was it frustrating at times? Or?
It was frustrating, because of the talent level.
Right.
But other than that, no. And it's like Ed said, when we, we just coached. I used all the stuff that I use with the boys, with the girls.
Right.
And some of the things you couldn't, but most of the drills you could. And I didn't find it that big a problem. I just knew that we were being stretched as far as being able to get victories because we weren't quite that talented,
Right. And you did make the tournament your first year, which I would say was a successful season. Then I think the next year you had lost some players, not as good of a season, but you still enjoyed doing it though.
Yes, very much so.
Right.
Then I came back again. I don't know what year it was, in maybe 1999 or 2000.
Right, I
when,
do remember that.
Alicia Mott was back.
Yeah.
Was
Tom like retirement parties, we used to say. You come back and we retire and come back.
Now, Coach.
I shall return more times than Douglas MacArthur.
So, Coach, you come off, you coached 5 years, but you had 3 really good years.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says that year. You guys won 8 games. That wasn't the best of team, and to get in that tournament, that was a successful year, and that was building to what was about to come. It had to be, like you said it was, but it had to be like heartbreaking at the same time to know you weren't out there coaching that team because you had coached those kids. I mean, how did that season go for you, like going to games and stuff? Was it tough for you? Did you
It was hard.
Was it bittersweet?
It was hard. Well, I won't say it's bittersweet because I was there.
Right.
I was on the bench
Right.
in the tournament run. I mean, and I scouted.
Right.
So I was still part of it. It's not the same, obviously, but I was there and I got to snip the net, all that kind of stuff there.
Right.
So
But was there ever any regret during that season where you said, "Man, I wish"?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it was, when you're a competitor and you come from 5-15, and then
to 15-5.
Yeah. And then you go there, and then you see a team that's going to win the state title against St. Joe's, because St. Joe's had that aura about them.
Well, they also had a legendary coach, too.
Yes,
Morelli, he was tremendous.
See, but we
coach.
played them in the summer. I remember playing him in the, our summer league when we did the summer league. We played up in Wolf Park in Monroe, and what's his name was in there. And it's interesting because I'll tell a story. I mean, we could edit it later if we want, but I was there in the summer, and Coach Montelli was there, and he would watch the games with his cigar and sitting down there. And he comes up to me, and I was young, and he was saying, "Well, it looks like you have a pretty good team going. Do you want to scrimmage preseason?" And I don't ask twice.
Yeah.
Right away when he said that to me, I said, "Forget it."
That's all.
I mean, don't try to placate me. I don't ask twice.
Yeah.
So even though maybe I should have scrimmaged them, but you get to the point where you're no respect, and you can't be like that to people. We respected our. We just went out the other day with Eddie Generali, who we haven't seen in years, from Holy Cross.
Right.
And Eddie and I coached against Eddie when he was at Sacred Heart JVs before he became the head coach at Sacred Heart and moved on. So we knew these guys forever and stuff there. But we respected each other in the league. Even when we battled, we used to go out after. We were talking about that. During our era there, all of them, Nick Augelli, Jack Taglia, the Torrington coaches, we would go out, and that league was a competitive league, but the coaches respected each other, and that was important.
The thing of it is, I think most coaches relate to each other because they know how hard it is to be successful. And it's one thing to be a great coach, but it's another thing to be a great coach and be humble.
Yep.
And sometimes, people aren't humble.
Absolutely.
And I think, with those coaches that you guys have relationships with, they relate to how you guys, had trouble winning at times, and you relate to how they had trouble winning at times. And, I think that's the biggest thing is coaches in that league knew how to stay humble, which is very important.
Yep, sure is.
So now, Ed, one of your final acts as head coach is you name Lenny captain of the 94-95 squad. Did you just feel he had earned it and he had shown he could be a great leader? Did you do it more on the fact that he's a good player, or was it a little of both, probably?
Yeah, you never do it strictly based on the quality of a player's ability,
Right.
skill-wise. You do it on what's inside the person, what leadership. I mean, are people going to listen to Lenny when he says something? Because there's times that obviously you can't say everything because you're away from the kids. So you need You need the captain to say, let's get it together, guys. Let's do this there. Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that Lenny could do it.
Now, Lenny, let me ask you this. Coach Strumello steps down. How hard was that for you? Because the guy had basically worked with you most of your career. Was it hard for you to take? I mean,
it was. I felt more sad for him,
right?
Because I knew how much of his heart was in the game and with the team, and especially with the team that we had coming back. So I felt just bad for him, and I want to say that I don't think there was like a lag in time where he announced he was stepping down and then Coach McQueeny was coming in. So I think, and I loved him, his presence in his classroom, and I knew that that he was the previous head coach.
Right.
There was a little question marks as far as like how he was going to run the team, but I felt very comfortable with that. With that transition.
Right. Now, Coach, that game, in the tournament, you guys get beat in the semis. Did you have an idea that could be your last game, or you had?
No, I did not. I had been looking to move up into the administration.
Right.
And I knew that there was an opening but the board at that time waited so long before they made a decision, because actually I started back at Lincoln Hayes as a teacher before Labor Day, and then they appointed me after Labor Day to become the principal. So there was a lag, and they knew, because it was John O'Brien was the principal at Will. He announced his retirement in the springtime. So whatever, I sit on the board of Ed now in Seymour, so I know that sometimes there's issues that come up,
right?
And I don't know the particulars of why that happened, but. I did not know that was going to be, and I took a while before. I didn't make the decision to leave quickly. It took me a while after the appointment. I didn't meet with them, because we met in a classroom on the first floor at the old high school when I announced it to them, and that was tough, because there were guys that were disappointed.
Right.
Why are you doing this to us? Because we didn't know who was coming on. There was no, rumors
there was no
that
indication that I was going to be there.
Right.
Did you talk to Tom about taking the job again, or
Tom came to me?
Came to you?
Yeah, he came down to Willis, in my office at Willis at the time, and came down and we talked about it. But that was Tom. That was our relationship. We always talked like that. Both ways. When I made the move to go to the girls, we talked.
Right. And we are going to talk all about that championship season when we come back after a quick break. I'm Mike Kenichi for Hometown Heroes. We'll be right back.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you?
You know you do.
Yeah, but I don't know where to start. That's why we're here. We're free, handsome,
I think we're breathtaking.
and here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. I got this. Is that brand? Colleges love extracurricular activities.
Chess really isn't my thing.
I got this. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Picking a college, man. You and us go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos.
Fire and ice.
Those don't really go together.
Go to GetSchooled.com for more info.
And we are back. I'm Mike Kenichi for Hometown Heroes. And gentlemen, let's get right into it. First off, Lenny, season begins. You get some devastating news maybe like what, the 4th or 5th game of the year?
It was eight games into the season.
8 games into the season. You, I believe, tore your ACL, or?
Well, yeah. What happened was the prior season, 8 games in, ironically enough, I ended up getting bridged, trying to block a shot, and I just came down and just literally just, you blew out your knee. I went and had the surgery done, which was supposed to be, it was 50% of my medial meniscus being removed. And it was a slow recovery. Like the way it should have went down is I should have been able to get back, back to playing, but my doctor wouldn't release me at the time, and it was a very slow recovery. Over that summer, I went up for a dunk, and my knee buckled, and I'm kind of glad that happened, because that helped me make the decision of when I went to catch an alley-oop 8 games into my senior season against Naugatuck. I came down, my knee buckled. I knew what it was, but I didn't know what was wrong. And I felt that I was just going to have this like bum knee, and so I'm in the locker room. I'm frustrated, and Coach McQueeny comes in and calms me down. He goes, I have a guy. He goes, he's out in Hampton. He's a young doctor, but he's good. So we went out to see Dr. Diana, and we went together. And he had me on the table, and he kind of does this with my knee, and it's just there's nothing holding it together.
Right.
So he's like, you have a completely torn ACL, and he said you need immediate surgery. And so all these thoughts are kind of going in my head, like, that's it, like that. And in my head, I'm like, this can't be it, Right. So because I had that situation happen to me over the summer where my knee buckled, I knew that if I had a couple days rest, get the swelling down, going with a tighter knee brace, double strap, and that I would be able to ride out the season, because I made it that far. Right. And I was running around, dunking and in games, and so that I made that decision, and I slumped a little bit after that because my confidence was hit, but what that did was it enabled the team to become as dynamic as it was. So you didn't know who was going to have a big game, or if 2 of us were going to have a big game. Try stop Steve. Well, now you got Phil, and you got Jim Froelich just getting easy rebounds and putbacks, and he was just going to compile a quiet 12 to 14 points a game. But it was all effective. And these guys coming off the bench and everything, and the starters really stepped up their games. So in particular, I remember playing at home at Holy Cross, the 10th game of the season. Phil stepped up, had a monster 27-point game, and it was helped delivered the only loss to their season. They ended up winning the N.V.L. and also the state championship, the double L. So we were the only team to beat them that year. They were number 1 ranked.
Right.
So
now, Coach, how did you deal with this? Did you, as a coach who cares about his player, did you want him to sit out the rest of the season? Did you leave it up to him, or?
Pretty much it was left up to him and Dr. Diana.
Right.
And I guess Lenny told Dr. Diana, is there something you could give me to, as a brace or something that maybe I can get through the season? I think that's how that went, didn't it?
Yeah.
And he said yes, and he had a brace for the ACL, but it was torn.
Yeah.
And what Lenny did in the final game against St. Joseph's, and we won the title, was an amazing thing to me on a torn ACL.
Right.
I mean, when you think about that, I don't know anybody that's doing that.
Well, usually, I mean, and being that that we're here today, I mean, you hear, I mean, there was obviously the advances in medicine and everything, and the surgeries got better over the years. Usually you hear a torn ACL, and just somebody's career is just over. Whether you're in the pros, whether you're in college or whatever, you're kind of done. So, but I just had this.
Now,
this
how did it work out in
determination.
practice? Did you go easy on the drills and work more on the
No,
X's?
I still went pretty hard.
Yeah.
I still went hard.
He practiced normal.
Yeah.
Right.
As he would if he had a great ACL.
Yeah, and I had, and during that slump, I had a little bit of a shooting slump. It was probably for about a good 5 to 6 games, and I had a meeting with the coach, and he said, "Don't worry about it. Keep shooting. You're going to shoot out of it." We got guys that, the cool thing about that team was we had guys that could shoot. Like Phil and I, at one point, Phil and I were the only guys that were allowed to shoot threes out of the starting 5.
Oh,
so
wow.
because we started to knock them down, and what was happening was Art getting a little confident shooting threes, and he was missing them. And one practice I remember said, "That's it." He goes, "The only guys that are allowed to shoot threes," and we weren't going outside jacking threes. If the offense provided it, we would take the opportunity to shoot, and we were able to hit. Kind of.
I was not a fan of the brick throwers. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So
if you're shooting bricks, I'm going to have a guy that can shoot and make it.
But to offset that, if a rebound goes short, well, you got Jimmy, who's just this physical specimen. I mean, he's just a beast. Phil's again 6'8", and any rebounds that went long. I mean, Steve was in a guard spot.
Yep.
If the rebound goes long, he had the opportunity to get it. So it was like that makeup of that team provided a lot of mismatches that really just the game was who's going to get the hot hand and how are you going to exploit the mismatch.
Right.
So, and that's how we kind of played the season. And he added a triangle offense that just had us running and cutting. And I remember getting some sweet passes from the corner and just power dribble, throw it down in transition as we were talking about dunking. And
right.
So it's just the makeup of that team. And then the side story of the makeup of the schedule. So we're down to two losses. We're to 1-3, right? Yeah, 1-3. So we started off the season that way, and the way the season was set up was Holy Cross was game number 10 and game number 20. And I remember reading a blurb in the paper, in the Waterbury paper, saying that they have the N.V.L. all wrapped up pretty much. It was like game number 6 or 7 in the season. Well, then all of a sudden we won out to game number 10. We play Holy Cross at home, and we beat them, which left the door open. If we beat them game number 20, if I'm not mistaken, it was going to be a playoff game.
Yep.
And we would have had to play them for the N.V.L. championship, but we lose our point guard to an altercation in school and
right.
Art, and so he wasn't able to play, and that opened up the game for Harold Miller, who had one of the best games of his life, and 51 points and 10 3-pointers. There was really nobody to stop him. So
we caught some bad breaks in that game. What happened was Harold Miller had just been named. They have an award up in Waterbury.
The Billy Finn Award.
The Billy Finn Award, and that day he was named the recipient of the Billy Finn Award. Now he was all pumped up.
Yeah,
right.
And we lose our point guard.
Who's our defensive specialist?
He has a problem with one of the teachers or something, and they told him he's suspended, and he couldn't play. So Steve Coughlin had to watch Miller.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and Miller is he's as quick as a hiccup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He had a bunch of steals that game, and at one point in the second half, I caught a little bit of fire. I was hitting some threes and whatever. But at one point, I was actually the guy bringing the ball up the floor. Like, I actually had to take the ball forward because if Steve was Harold was so fast and causing so many problems with the turnovers and the steals that at some point I was like, all right, well, I'll take the ball up the floor, and it created some opportunities, but it was tiring me out. And I remember, the coach and some of the guys were like, all right, get it to Lenny. It was starting to heat up. But I was like, I remember I was like trying to catch my breath, and Coach Strumello was sitting right behind me, and he goes, and I went like this. I go, no. I go, don't get it. I said, just run the offense. And he's like, yes, run the offense. Just run the offense. Things will happen. So, because we were tiring them out too. It's the end of the season. I mean,
right.
and there was 2 heavyweights, just slugging, at each other. And we kind of, I think we got the game within like 9 or 10. And then they took Harold out, then they put him back in, and they opened it up a little bit. And unfortunately, give us a
was
worse
that
loss.
the game that one of our players had a 1-on-1 at the end of the game, and if he made both of them, we were going to win the game? Was that the game?
No, that was Crosby. That was Crosby at home. I think.
I thought it was Holy Cross up there.
No, because we lost by 18, so there's there was no, they definitely. But they had, so they go 24-1, and they had 2 future Division I players. One goes on in Edmund Saunders to win, help win a NCAA championship. UConn's first ever, and Harold was 1,000-point, plus scorer.
And you split with them. So, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Would you say that's one of your proudest victories you ever had as a coach? Is knocking off a team like that was so good
for game.
No, knocking off St. Joseph's was because of not animosity, but I got beat by them so many times in the tournament that beating them finally in the tournament and winning the Class L title.
Plus, they in basketball were equivalent to kind of like us in football, so they they have their string of championships, and just like that record alone can kind of. It can mentally, have an effect on you. But we were definitely primed up. And
would you say that loss to Holy Cross actually benefited you guys because you got that loss out of the way? You were due to have a game where you were going to lose or have a bad game. Not to say you guys had a bad game. You played a real good team. But losing that game probably helped because you had that loss out of the way, and now, you were more determined than ever to, finish out this tournament.
Yeah, well, and not only that, when you think about our league, I told you how our league was difficult.
Yeah.
The Northern Valley League in basketball, that's what they are. They're a basketball league.
Yeah.
And and I'm not taking it away from any other sports. I'm just saying that if you go watch them, it's something. We had the double L winner was Holy Cross, and the L winner was Ansonia. So that's in the whole state of Connecticut. So, that's pretty good. 2 people right out of the league.
Yeah.
When the double L and the L,
Yeah. You know what I always thought about that tournament was the North Haven game, because North Haven, you guys were having a bad first half, turning the ball over. I think Arthur was having a rough game, but then you guys managed to get that win. You were able to squeak it out, and I think that really helped you through the rest of the way because you got through that game. I think that was a scary game. I could be wrong, but from what I remember,
we handled them pretty good. And I remember
it was sloppy play.
It was. I know. We were.
I remember leaving that game and
because that was in Derby.
People were saying, people were saying, "There's no way they're going to win this." They're too out of control. They're too erratic, and
Going back to your original question. As far as losing the Holy Cross and it benefiting us, I think so. Because if we would have had to play again Saturday if we beat them, and that was just to get another shot, another crack at the at the N.V.L. title.
Yeah.
So and if you go there and potentially you lose, now you just took another big game, out of your system going into the end of the season. So I was, because of the outcome, because we won the championship, I was okay with being that we didn't have Art. That was the big thing. If you had Art, the makeup might have been a little bit different. Harold Miller was still on fire, but you never know. It could have been a much closer game, and the opportunity would have been there. And then obviously you get beat by 1 point each. Our only other 2 losses were just by 1 point. So it's you could play the what if game all you want, but I was very happy on how the tournament. But the Kennedy game was up in Naugatuck. We played them right after North Haven in the tourney, and that was a big game because they beat us by 1 point, and then I think we only beat them by 2 at home. And they had, Marlon Parker was so smooth, as a junior, and then whatever he couldn't do on the inside because he was just super quick. I had a hard time catching up, blocking his shots, and they would just run these plays where he would cut in the middle and put up these little floaters, and they'd go right over our fingertips. You know what I mean? And in. So, and then whatever he didn't do, you had the 3-point, specialist and Armin Levasseur. So, and he would just shoot daggers, and we had that was a battle up there, up in Naugatuck. So
another Division I player, Armin.
Yeah.
Went on
some
to play.
Great basketball players, really was.
Yeah, and Marlon too, and And then we had the game against Bassick, and Bassick. That was a situation where we almost didn't get in. We were losing the first 3 quarters of the game. And the story behind the bad play that came from Phil and I, there's a little bit of a background story. So Phil comes over to my house. We're getting ready to go to the game, but it was right after school. So, we're just kind of prepping. We have this kind of this nervous energy going on. So we're like, well, we'll go down the park, we'll shoot some free throws, and whatever. Well, we were playing a little bit of a one-on-one, so we're getting a little competitive, but we're burning, good energy.
Right.
Coach Stankiewicz just happens to be driving by and sees us playing, yells at us, so we leave. And, we head home, and then we go to the game that night, and, I felt it in my legs. I didn't have strong legs that game, and I had a poor game, because of it. And thank God Steve and Jimmy, just took over in the fourth quarter. I mean, we were, Phil and I were chipping in a little bit here, but we looked bad. And I was getting scouted by Coach Campbell at the time, and I was almost in tears after the game because I played so bad, and, then you get scouted, and but there was a chance to make up for it in the final game. So
that was the game. The reserve, Greg, had a great game.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Greg Washura, and so Greg, he came to me during the season, and he was the one guy that played on the freshman team, with me in that 14 and 7 team. And he comes to me and he goes, Len, my confidence on my 3-point shot is dwindling. He's like, I'm supposed to go in there and hit threes coming off the bench. He's like, but it's just not happening. He goes, I'm going to try to, draw some defenders. And he goes, I'll start dropping passes off to you. And we had a nice little, duo, and he does it in the championship game. So, and you can see he gets in the corner, drops off, nice pass. They take a power dribble up and in, and I get fouled, and there's a free throw and everything that was made. And but yeah, he was quiet, but prior to his confidence kind of getting shot, he was a deadly 3-point shooter. I mean, he was good. So
right now, the championship game, you have the game of your life. I think you had 19 rebounds. You had 31 points, I believe. I mean, what were the emotions like after you get the heartbreaking news that you tore your ACL? You think your career is over pretty much. You're playing that whole season, with a bad knee, and you have that game. You're the MVP of the tournament. You guys win the championship. How did you feel after that game? Were you numb? I mean,
cloud nine. I mean,
I
don't.
Yeah.
But I think one of the greatest gifts that a player can give a coach is to go out on top. But seeing their faces and the time that they put into the coaching, to see it finally pay off, to me was like that was an awesome gift, and I felt, and it was I mean, that next week in school, I mean, they had the articles up, and it was smile from ear to ear, and after the game, getting hugs from these guys, and Pop, Pop Shortle. A quick story about Pop. He on the bus ride up, I'm just like, strong hands. We talked about strong hands before. Just play with strong hands, and good things will happen. We're getting ready to play, and I'm really focused. Pop calls me over. He's sitting down. He's keeping doing the thing. Calls me over, and he looks at me, and he's like, Lenny. He's like, you're going to do it for Ansonia. You are going to bring this title home. Calls it out. Now, in my head, I'm like, I go back in the layup line. And I'm kind of thinking, well, he's probably going to call over Jimmy Froelich and call over Steve and tell the same thing. But I talked to Steve, like I said, at the 20th reunion, and I asked him about that, and he goes, no, you never called me over. Like he never said anything to me. So and he was at every game. I mean, and especially when it got good, he was traveling on the road, coming to the games, and big time supporter. And I can still hear his voice. Sit on him.
A guy that goes overlooked in that whole championship thing is our assistant coach Carl Jankiewicz, who was terrific for us. Mm-hmm. And he knew he had the pulse of the team down. He knew when this kid wasn't going to be doing this and that. He was unbelievable and a tremendous asset to the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
Right.
He was really, really
he was good
something
for us.
He's been around at Ansonia Athletics
Oh,
forever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He played for me. He played in the time.
He played in a big time game.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking about
Down
big time
down in
game.
Fairfield U.
Walter Luckett. I don't know if you remember that name. Walter Luckett was from Bassick also. No, or Hard.
He was Colby.
Colby.
Cathedral.
Walter Luckett was a highly recruited player. He was on Sports Illustrated as one of the cover. Sports Illustrated was one of the top. And we played them at Fairfield University, packed, not the present facility. And Kyle Jankevich was on that team there.
He was our center, technically.
Yeah, and we lose by only 4 points or something, and they
I
went
think
on.
it was 3 points, yeah.
Yeah, they went out to
There
win
were
it.
1,200 people outside wanting to get in.
Into
couldn't
that.
Get in.
Unbelievable.
You never see that today.
Place was rocking.
Unbelievable game. Great players. I mean, Walter Luckett and Willie, they were 40 and 39.
Walter Luckett signed with the Detroit Pistons. He played for them.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened.
University of Dayton, was that where he went? I can't remember what.
No, I'll tell you where he went.
He went out.
He went to Miami of Ohio.
Okay. Yes. Very
Hey?
good. Right. But he was.
Wow, how's an old guy like that?
Now, Coach, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
35 years of coaching at this point.
Yep.
Ups and downs, of course.
Yep.
You leave a few years.
Yep.
Along the way, I mean, there was even the injury you got doing a coaching clinic. So, I mean, there were
Yep.
some obstacles along the way. That buzzer goes off. What's going through your head? And what was, like, the summer like for you? It had to be great.
I got news for you. In coaching, that was the greatest moment right after that buzzer went off.
Yeah.
And it was a great moment because I knew how many beatings we had taken from St. Joseph's, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which probably made it sweet to beat them for the championship.
Yeah, and I went over to Vito. Yeah. I had a couple of words.
That was good.
Did you get emotional, or are you not an emotional
No,
type
I'm not.
of guy?
No, I didn't
No.
get emotional. No, I got like wise guy. I was
Yeah.
like a wise guy. And it was unbelievable. And for this kid to have a game like that, and the rest of the team to enjoy that, prior to the game, though, I'm going to tell you now, I try to leave no stone unturned. I called up Art Leary, who was the coach at Southern Connecticut State at the time. And, okay. So, and he told me, he says, is Steve Coughlin a quarterback in football? I said, yeah. He says, let him take the ball out of bounds, get it back to him, and let him make the passes. And that's what we did.
Yeah, some of the like my last regulation 2 points came off of a play that Coach McQueeny drew up. Steve was playing relentless defense with about 50 seconds left, causes a turnover, the ball goes out of bounds underneath our basket. We're about ready to take it in, and he's on the side like, time out, call timeout. So we call timeout, sits down, draws up the play, and I just, started off opposite block and just made a sweeping, curl. Phil did, Phil went on the other side. Steve hits me, and he many times in the past has, we've hooked up on the stack where I'm the last guy and I'm coming down, and he just quick pass and I would just get a nice little shot off the backboard, but I had to come and curl around and take a low percentage shot. I mean, it was a fadeaway jumper on the baseline with 3 guys on me,
Right.
but I was feeling pretty hot, so I was okay with taking the shot. The ball hits the rim, hits the backboard, hits the rim again, and then goes in.
Key shot.
And and it was that put us up by 2 with 41 seconds left. They come down. I believe Jim Froelich grabbed the rebound. They fouled him. He missed the front end of a 1-on-1, and with 11 seconds left, they inbound the ball, and I was at the free throw line, and they had a foul to do something. So we played keep away, and I ended up with the ball. So with 11 seconds left, I go shoot 1-on-1 from the free throw line. And the first shot goes in, and then the second shot was like just barely even touched the net and just went in, and those were my last 2 points of the game, and it put us up by 4. And then what ended up happening was we go up by 4. There's 11 seconds left. They bring the ball down. there was a pass that Steve almost intercepted. It hit him in the chest. And then, so the point guard, Kyle, ended up, I think, passing to Paul Mikulak, who is in the lane, runs out to the three-point line, does a 180, and hits a three with 1 second left. But they sounded the buzzer, and people stormed the court. And we had to be careful because we could have gotten a technical because like our cheerleaders were out on the floor and there was people that just, but I think, so they didn't end up calling a technical. They got the people off the floor and then they had a super slick play where Kyle was in the middle of the floor and he grabs Phil before he inbounds the ball and pulls him on top of him and falls down. Now, if the ref doesn't see what happens, Phil gets called with a foul, and they go to the line, and we're only up by 1.
Yeah, I was going to say they did that. That was the most unbelievable. I never saw that before.
Yeah, that was. I mean, and if they pulled it off, I mean, that's a magic trick.
Right to him and fell backward like the kid blocked him. You know what I mean?
But it's kind of it's a dirty play.
Yeah.
But then so Phil goes to the line. He knocks down the first one. Everybody told him to miss the second one because they weren't. There was probably less than a second left on the clock, and so you touch the ball, the buzzer's going to go off. So and that's how we ended up winning by 2. So it was with that the film is online. Anybody wants to see it, check it out. The last minute is a roller coaster.
Which is how most championships are won. Usually, there's, good and bad the whole game. Ed, you built this team the first couple years. To see guys like Lenny, guys like Steven, guys like Jim, all these guys you coached win a championship, how gratifying was that for you?
It was great. I mean, because I helped win that. I mean, Tom put the finishing, put the finishing touches on it, but it was great to see them because they were kids and they became adults.
Right.
The great thing is when we talked, we had the 20th anniversary, and unfortunately Tom had hurt himself, wasn't able to come. The high school did it. Getting together with the guys after that game and talking about some stuff was a great experience after 20 years because it's amazing what some of the things they remembered that you say. Yeah. Because as an educator, as a teacher, as a coach, you say so many things and you wonder how much do they ever remember? But when they start quoting some of the things you said, it's like spooky.
Yeah, we retained a lot. And we're going to do it again, by the way, too. We're going to get together.
Well, we could keep talking. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I want to thank you three for coming on today. This was a lot of fun. And, just to tell you three, I mean, Ed, I'll start with you. Building that team, coaching for as many years as you did, getting the most out of your players and stuff like that, you were as big a part of this championship as anybody was. I mean, you probably made him a better player. I'm sure he tells you that. And, you can't, downplay how great you did as a coach in building this team and what you did for Ansonia Athletics. And you should be very proud of yourself. And, Lenny, I mean, you tear your ACL. To me, probably most people would have been done for the year. They wouldn't have done what you did, but you wanted it so bad that you went out there and sucked it up. And look what happened. In the championship game, you have the game of your life. So it was all worth it, and that's just a credit to you and the work you put in. And Coach McQueeny, what could I say? I mean, I heard about you when I was 6 years old. My mother remembers you. 35 years of coaching, and, it was very nice to see you get that championship because, you probably went through some tough seasons, and like you said, you lost to St. Joe's a lot. But to go, to finally get that championship and beat St. Joe's, that had to be great, and that's a credit to you and all the work you put in, and, nobody deserved it more. So you three should be very proud of yourselves because you three played a huge part in this championship, and it's just great to be here today to kind of talk to you about it, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.
We ran out of time during this shoot, and one of the things we didn't get to talk about was our defense. One of our biggest components of our defense was Art Denby. His ability to defend future Division I caliber point guards was vital. He kept future Fairfield University guard Kyle Commodore to just 17 points in the championship game. That's 6 points below his season average. Art would also give us pockets of scoring when needed.
Number 15, Arthur Denby. Number 22, Terrence Washington. Number 23, very much.